I start by deleting the default sphere from the scene menu and creating a lathe object, which is very useful for creating more complex shapes. A cylinder appears that allows me to add points and modify its geometry. I switch to front view and add a point near the top. I tap it again so it turns black. Then narrow the upper part of the cylinder to begin creating the bead shape. I add another point at a similar distance from the bottom and narrow that section as well. Using the gizmo tool, I drag the green handle to make the bead smaller. In the lathe settings, I enable hole so an opening appears through the center of the bead. I switch from gizmo mode back to primitive mode. The control pivots appear, and by dragging the blue handle, I reduce the hole size. I press the green Validate button. Validate converts the primitive into editable geometry. I open the material settings and enable Smooth. Shading to make the bead appear smooth without increasing the mesh density. I return to the Scene menu, hide the bead, and add a new box object. I drag the green handle to make it smaller and move it to the center of the workspace. I enable Snap in the left toolbar and rotate the box by 90 degrees. I press Voxel in the bottom menu, increase the resolution to create a denser mesh, and click Remesh. Then I go to the Operation menu and apply Smooth to soften the shape. Next, I select the Mask tool from the right toolbar and tap the white cube icon in the lower left corner. In the pop-up window, I press Import and load a heart-shaped alpha. It is already imported, so I simply select it. I open the stroke settings and choose Lock plus Radius. In Falloff, I select Catmull ROM and drag the sliders upward so the alpha has a consistent depth across the entire mask. In the additional mask settings, I enable front vertex and stamp the heart onto the box. I open the mask settings, increase the thickness value, and press Extract. Extract creates a new object from the masked area while keeping the original mesh intact. This is a very useful technique for creating raised text, decorative details, and relief elements. In the Scene menu, I delete the original box and keep only the heart and the hidden bead. I increase the resolution of the heart and perform a remesh. Remesh rebuilds the mesh and distributes polygons more evenly. This helps create cleaner geometry before smoothing and boolean operations. Now I apply Smooth to soften all the edges. I duplicate the heart in the Scene menu, enable X-ray mode, and slightly scale down the duplicate. I switch to side. View and position the smaller heart inside the larger one to define the area that will later be cut out, creating a decorative border around the pendant. Using the Move brush with symmetry enabled in the left panel, I manually adjust the heart shape. In the Symmetry menu, I can switch from World to Local mode, so symmetry is applied relative to the center of the heart itself. To cut one heart out of the other, I open the scene menu. I hide the smaller heart, select both hearts, and press Boolean. Before using Boolean, I increase the resolution. A denser mesh usually produces cleaner cuts with fewer artifacts. One heart is now cut from the other. I apply smooth once more to soften the resulting surface. Next, I add a cylinder, increase its division value, scale it down, and position it at the top center of the heart. This cylinder will be used to create the hole for the pendant. I position it in front view and double-check the placement using X-ray mode. In the Scene menu, I hide the cylinder, select both objects, and press Boolean. I increase the resolution and apply Boolean again. The hole is now cut through the pendant. Now I'll create the Bite Me text using the same masking technique. I apply the text mask to the heart. In the mask settings, I increase thickness and press Extract. Extract creates a separate 3D text object while preserving the original pendant. In the small mask menu, I press Clear All to remove the mask from the heart. I switch to side view, select the text object, and adjust its position so it stays within the boundaries of the heart. I can also scale the text up or down depending on the design. In the Scene menu, I select both objects and press Join to merge them into a single mesh. I open the voxel menu, increase the resolution, and press Remesh to rebuild the geometry of the combined object. Then I apply Smooth to clean up the surface. The pendant is now finished. I hide it and make the bead visible again. Now I'm going to create the bracelet strand. I press Add in the Scene menu and choose Curve from the Repeater section. Two beads connected by a curve appear. Curve repeaters are extremely useful for jewelry because they allow you to create bracelets, necklaces, and chains very quickly while keeping everything editable. By adding points to the curve, I can bend it into any shape I want. I create the basic bracelet shape. In the curve settings, I increase the count value to add more beads. Now I want the beads to be slightly smaller, so I open the Scene menu, select the bead object and scale it down. To scale proportionally, I drag the orange ring on the gizmo. Then I select the curve again and increase the bead count further. I make a few final adjustments to the bracelet shape. I enable the pendant again and scale it up. I also rotate it slightly to create a more dynamic angle. Now, using the tube tool from the right toolbar, I'll create the transparent elastic string that holds the bracelet together. I draw a curve following the bracelet, shape and extend it slightly, into the pendant, since the pendant will also be attached to the elastic. I increase the division value to make the tube smoother and reduce its radius using the orange pivot. I enable X-ray mode and adjust the curve so it sits perfectly inside the beads. This is easy to do by moving the white control points on the curve. I add a few extra points and connect the bracelet to the pendant. I enable closed in the tube settings so the curve becomes a closed loop. By dragging points onto each other, I remove any unnecessary control points. I want to create the impression of a small knot where the pendant connects to the elastic string. I slightly twist the curve in that area. Then I add a torus, increase its division value, and move it into place. I duplicate the torus several times to simulate the elastic wrapped around itself. At this point, the model is complete. Now I just need to set up the materials, colors, and render settings. I open the quality menu and enable post-processing. I enable reflection and increase global illumination to the maximum. I also enable ambient occlusion for more realistic shadows. Ambient occlusion adds subtle contact shadows between objects and details, helping the bracelet feel more grounded and realistic. I add a small amount of bloom for a soft glow. I enable tone mapping and select aces. Aces produces richer colors and more natural contrast, which works especially well for colorful jewelry renders. Now I'll change the color of the pendant. I make it pink with a slightly glossy finish. I also switch the HDRI map to a studio, lighting setup for more realistic reflections and color rendering. At this stage, I disable bloom because it isn't necessary with this lighting setup. I choose a color and press Paint All to apply it to the entire pendant. I slightly increase the ambient occlusion intensity to strengthen the shadows. Great. I adjust the pink color to a cooler tone. It looks better this way. I select the beads and paint them pink as well. Now, in the Scene menu, I select the curve and press Validate. In the pop-up window, I choose Uninstance and press Yes. While the curve remains procedural, all beads are instances of the same object. This keeps the scene lightweight and improves performance. After validation, each bead becomes an individual object that can be edited or recolored separately. I repaint some beads white and others yellow. Now the bracelet really looks like a classic candy bracelet. The only thing left is to create the transparent elastic material. I select the elastic string and press Validate. In the Scene menu, I merge the tube with all the toruses. In the Material menu, I change the material type to Refraction. Refraction simulates the way light passes through transparent materials, such as glass, gemstones, or clear plastic, making it perfect for creating the elastic cord. The result already looks good, but I can fine-tune the reflectance value if needed. I change the background color to white. I can also adjust the camera angle and enable perspective view for more interesting renders. Using this same workflow, you can create necklaces, anklets, keychains, and other candy-inspired accessories. Simply change the bead shapes, colors, or pendant design to create something completely unique. That's it. The candy bracelet is finished. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I'm always happy to help. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.